Hi guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Hello everyone. Okay, so today is going to be a interesting video follow-up to a notorious infamous person known as Oli London. Now, about a year ago, me and a massive load of the LGBT community on YouTube, of course across the internet as well, all made reactions and videos to Oli London because at the time, he made this video where basically he said he was coming out as transracial and said that I've now had eyelid surgery. I'm now Korean. Respect me. My pronouns are Kor and Rian. I'm Korean, so my pronouns are Kor. It was just the most offensive, racist, transphobic video I've ever seen.
I identify as Korean. That's just my culture. That's my home country. That's exactly how I look now. They/them/Jimin/Korean. Or Kor/Ian, Korean. That's how I identify.
But I will give a little rundown now of who Oli London is before I get into what he's done recently, which is why I'm making this video. So Oli London exists in this shock tabloid-y kind of very Jerry Springer, very Jeremy Kyle style of entertainment where someone will do something extreme. They'll get on the news, they'll get on all the chat shows, all like This Morning, Good Morning Britain. When all the attention from that shocking thing dries up, they do something else. And the cycle repeats itself. They do something more exciting, more adventurous, more crazy, more like elevating what they've already done. And then they go through the chat shows again, the tabloids again, and then the attention from that dries up, and then it escalates and something else happens, and it escalates and escalates and escalates. So Oli London's story arc at the moment has been, I'm obsessed with K-pop. I love K-pop. I love K-pop. I love BTS. I love Jimin from BTS. I love him. I love him. I love him. Becomes very obsessed with him. Got attention for being like an obsessive person of Jimin in BTS. Then he started like going, oh, now the attention from that's dried up. So I've now married a cardboard cutout of him. I'm now becoming him. And then that dried up. So it's, oh, I'm now actually being trans Korean. I'm actually now transitioning to be Korean because I really want to be like Jimin. And then started like getting surgeries to be Korean. Obviously did the video being like, oh, I've now had eyelid surgery. That makes me Korean. Which in itself not only is transphobic and makes a mockery of trans people, it also incredibly racist, minimalizing an entire community of people down to their eyes, like especially because that's like the stereotypical like racist thing that people do when it comes to Asian people. That obviously then dried up. Then they became like a trans age and said that I identify as a different age. That obviously then dried up. And we come to the present day. He's now come out as a TERF, defending J.K. Rowling, and now is doing interviews on far-right political channels, saying that he has now detransitioned back to being a British man. So he recently did 2 interviews that we're going to be watching today. One is on Piers Morgan's show. I don't know if Piers Morgan's actually interviewing him or if he's being interviewed just on Piers Morgan's show. We will get to that. But the first video I want to look at is a video that he made on Carlson's news show. Now, if people don't know who Tucker is, I've got like a tiny description here. Tucker Carlson is an American television host, conservative political commentator, and author who has hosted the nightly political talk show Tucker Carlson Tonight on Fox News. Fox News. So he hosts a news show, and I use news show very loosely. Essentially, it is a far right-wing political news show where they talk about the most obscene conspiracy theories. The left stole the election. It was all it's very conspiracy theorist. That these people think trans people should die, hates abortions, think no one should get the right to choose how they live. Like, it's very stereotypical, like Christian far right nonsense. So let's watch this video. We're going to react to what Ollie talks about, and then we'll watch the other one as well. Okay.
As a Korean woman. But 6 months later, he's decided he's had enough. Now he's transitioning back to being a British man. We thought we would ask him what that experience was like.
First of all, lived 6 months as a Korean woman and now detransitions back to being a British man. I mean, that sentence alone.
Oli London joins us tonight. Oli London, thanks so much for coming on. So why did you decide to become a Korean woman? Who told you that was possible?
So obviously I've had a difficult time with my gender identity struggles. I was never unhappy with how I looked. So I started changing. I started dressing as a Korean woman.
Wait, you were never unhappy with the way that you looked, so you got loads of surgery to change how you looked?
And I realized that was a big mistake and I just want to be a boy. But, is it any wonder people like me and young people want to change their gender when we have the normalization of this in our schools in this country? Children are taught from a young age, from the age of 5 in some cases, that it's okay to change their gender. It's okay to, wear a skirt. It's okay.
Already, we're 40 seconds in this interview, and he's already doing the turfy talk of, oh, the schools are trying to manipulate the children, the very turfy topics.
It's okay to, wear a skirt. It's okay for a boy to use a gender-neutral toilet.
It's okay for a boy to wear a skirt if they want to. Telling a boy to wear a skirt is not going to make them trans. And also, I want to just stress as well, he's saying, I did all this to myself. Is it any shock that I did this to myself because children are being taught in schools? You were a fully grown man. Like, you were not a child. You were not in school. When you were in school, what, you're like my age. When you were in school, we still had the overhanging leftovers of Section 28, which is what Margaret Thatcher implemented when she said that it was basically illegal to teach anything promoting homosexuality in schools. We still had like the overhang from that. So it was hard enough already to learn about gay things when we were young in school, let alone being trans. Like, that was not even a discussion that I didn't even know what that was when I was young. There was zero understanding or zero talking about that when we were young in school. So the idea that you can be like, well, I did this to myself. Is it any shock because we're being taught when we're kids? You were not taught that as a child. You were a fully grown adult doing this. You were not a child who's being manipulated. So let's not try to spin the story like that.
This is the new norm, and schools are teaching about toxic masculinity. They're eroding the alpha male. The alpha straight male has been eroded.
The alpha straight male has been eroded. That is as if Oli London could ever be an alpha male. Oh, please, bitch. Absolutely not. No, the alpha male has been eroded. Wow. What a thing to say. Literally a TERF. Oli London has become a TERF.
What happened years ago when kids used to go to school, they used to idolize Superman and astronauts. Now kids are being pushed this radical ideology. They're taught to idolize weak men like Harry Styles, weak politicians like Beto O'Rourke. Why is this happening,
What are you when was the last time you went to a school? Like, when was the last time you actually went to a school and kids used to idolize superheroes. Kids still love superheroes. They act as if, like, you walk into school and it's just this, like, huge pride parade. And people are walking around, like, naked, and there's trans people everywhere, and there's gays everywhere going like, oh my God, you're going to be like us. Come on, children. It's still a tiny, tiny portion of what kids are taught at school is just to be accepting and that other people exist.
Why is this happening, And is it any wonder people like me fall victim to this? That
you didn't fall victim to it. You were fully grown adult. You didn't fall victim. You were a fully grown adult. You weren't a child. This never... Oh, it's balmy. Kids were not taught in school about trans stuff when we were in school. That was totally unheard of. And you did this because you wanted attention. And now you come full circle because, one, it's backfired on you. And also, it's dried up. You've done it all now. What people keep talking about the same thing? No. So you've become full circle, and you're being interviewed on radical anti-trans networks. Like, what are you doing?
I kind of fell victim to this mentality.
No,
I'm an adult, but these kids can't make these decisions on their own. They're being...
Exactly, you're an adult, so you didn't fall victim to it because you're talking about kids here. They honestly make it out as if, like, a child just goes, I don't feel like a boy, and they're instantly given drugs. Like, it just does not work like that. You don't just walk into a doctor's surgery and say, I'm a woman, I was born a girl, but I feel like a boy, and instantly get hormone blockers, and you put, that's just not how it works.
I'm grateful that I've come out the other side. I'm grateful I found God. But, I want to speak up for these kids that are confused with their gender. A lot of kids have gender dysphoria, and, that wasn't a thing 20 years ago, Tucker. This is what's being taught in the school system.
That wasn't a thing 20 years ago. You can go back in history, and you will always find things that exists now that never existed then, because people didn't have a effing clue what it was. There was no such thing as depression, or like people with like even things like dyslexia, or anything that was like considered mentally unwell, or anyone has like autism, or any kind of like more mental illness that, people who would normally get help now were like lobotomized or put into like mental hospitals and kept then locked up and like tested on. Like, things have always existed. We just didn't know what they were until more like, there'll be, in 20, 30 years time, we'll discover things that we didn't know now. That's just how the world works. The idea like, well, this thing didn't exist back then, therefore they've just made it up to change children's genders. Like, it's so balmy. Like, it's so balmy. This is why I say he's now just spewing out TERF nonsense.
Did it make you happier? Did you feel when you, quote, transitioned and started living as something that you weren't, did you feel like you were that thing, and were you at peace inside?
I've never really found happiness until recently. So I was always struggling with my looks, as most kids do, especially as a teenager between, the...
But you said at the beginning that you didn't struggle with your looks. You literally said at the beginning that you didn't have... Well, hang on, wait.
So obviously I've had a difficult time with my gender identity struggles. I was never unhappy with how I looked.
I was never unhappy with how I looked, but then in 207...
I was always struggling with my looks as...
I was always struggling... So what's the story? Were you struggling with the looks, or were you not struggling with... Like, get your story straight. Like, what... If you're gonna go and talk on one of the biggest US TV news shows, get your story straight.
And kids start to question themselves. They start to question their looks, their identity. They have self-esteem issues. This is normal. I used to really hate the way I looked, so I thought having all this surgery, trying to become a girl, dressing as a girl, trying to be more feminine, I thought that would make me happy. I've realized that was a big mistake, and I feel like, if I was born 40 years ago, I wouldn't have done this. It's what the woke culture is pushing these days, what we see on TikTok. It's the new normal, and this is so wrong. It's really affecting our kids, and the school boards have a lot to answer for with this.
It's what you are not in any... 40 years ago, I never would have done this. No, because you probably would have been killed. Blaming everyone else for his decisions. No one pressured you. No one pressured you to transition into being Korean. Like, what are you talking... Like, literally, the entirety of the internet was saying what you're doing is not only racist, but transphobic, just offensive to so many communities. No one was telling you, yeah, we really think you should do this to become a Korean woman, yeah, and your pronouns Court and Rian, yeah. The woke culture is going to be the people that tell you to stop doing it.
I agree with that. A lot of people are unhappy inside. That's normal. But pharmaceuticals and plastic surgery aren't going to fix it, of course, as you know. Oli London, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
When you think about the start of how this was I just love K-pop, and that was what originally got him all the attention and all the, I love Jimin, blah, blah, blah. And it's gone to the stage now where he's talking to far-right anti-LGBT groups about detransitioning and the corruption and the woke culture. These people don't like you, Oli. They're just using you as a pawn to go against queer people. They do not like you, and they do not want you on their side. They just use you to further their agenda of anti-LGBT hate. They don't like you. And if push came to shove and they had to pick people to disappear because humanity was dying, you would be the first one to go. I always knew that Oli London was a complete troll, and I always knew this from the very beginning. Anyway, should we watch the second video? And Piers Morgan Uncensored. Piers Morgan Uncensored, just so you can say horrific things about Meghan Markle again.
Welcome back. NHS England has unveiled new guidance for youngsters distressed about their gender. Doctors should now carefully explore
Why is he
all
talking like
underlying
that?
health problems, being mindful that this may be a transient phase.
What the hell was that? Why was he talking like that? Also, gender wars. It's so salacious. It's so gender war. Like, shut up.
Luckily, Helen Joyce won't be silenced, and she's with us now.
Oh, she won't be silenced.
Now, Ollie, I wanted to talk to you first. You were very keen to come on tonight and tell us a bit
And
about
get
your
more money and
story.
attention.
You transitioned to a woman, and now you're back as a man. What led to that decision? Did you feel forced into it?
Not true. That's been... He transitioned to being Korean. This isn't... Let's not twist this. Why hasn't that been... I want to know why that's been, like, omitted. And then putting Did you feel forced into it? Come on, tell us you were forced into it. It's putting word, like, not just putting words into the mouth, but also like it feels a bit like a psychic or someone who's trying to cold read someone in a room where they'll say something to kind of like put it into your mind. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. Instead of actually listening and letting the person talk, it already puts in even subconsciously sometimes like a confirmation bias. It's hard to kind of explain. But I know what I'm trying to say. But when you say things like, "Oh, but were you forced into it?" You haven't just let them answer. You've now put that notion of, "Yeah, I was forced into it," into the zeitgeist.
So my whole life I was actually very unhappy with the way I looked. So it actually started.
So again, you've just changed again from the other one. You said that you weren't unhappy with how you looked, and now you're saying you are unhappy with how you looked your whole life. But I mean,
that was me wanting to change, wanting to look more perfect, more beautiful. So I kind of went on this quest since 2013 to undergo surgery to try and achieve perfection. And I've kind of...
See, again, I mean, maybe he will, but they've omitted this whole like, Korean part of it. Like they've gone, we're going to talk about being trans and how it's gender wars and how it's affecting children. That's an interesting way of like giving a false narrative, because they're trying to push this idea of trans people are affecting the children, when actually he is not the person to be talking about this kind of issue at all.
Realize that perfection is not attainable.
So do you think that was more sort of body dysmorphia?
I think so. I've come to realize now I've had so many surgeries, about 32 actual plastic surgeries in total. As you can see, I've got so many scars kind of all over my face. So I feel like that's how it started off. And then I got to a point earlier this year where I still hadn't achieved happiness. So I thought maybe I should be a trans woman. Maybe that's why I'm unhappy. So, you know, I was trans for 6 months. You know, I had the facial feminization surgery. I had 11 procedures. I had the hair extensions.
See, again, they've not mentioned anything about this whole Korean part. They're doing that to spin a narrative, because they know if they mention anything about it, most people will be like, what the hell is this problem? Like, it's very telling that they've taken that out. It's very telling that they've omitted that, because they would have known it. They wouldn't have just like brought Oli London not having any research. They would have known what his, you know, trajectory was and what he's done. Like, but they've chosen to omit that bit of information, and it's very telling. Very telling.
And I just realized, you know, it just wasn't me, wasn't who I was inside.
So it wasn't for you, therefore no one should transition. But this is a very common thing when it comes to detransition stories. Now, yes, there will be people who detransition, whose identity changes over time, and that's absolutely fine. But this idea that as a detransitioner, you would then go on and say, well, because this is happening, we need to fight the gender war that's happening, and no one should be allowed to transition. Essentially, that's what's being said in these interviews. It's like, just because it wasn't right for you, doesn't mean suddenly it doesn't exist and it's all made up and every trans person's dead. Mike, dead. Doesn't mean suddenly that all trans people are lying and they're all confused. No, trans people actually exist. Not everyone does it because they want attention like you do.
Were you taking any advice from anyone? Were you seeking medical help, psychiatric help? What kind of advice were you being offered at the time?
No, he just wanted attention.
It was more seeing things online. You know, I'm a social media person.
Wait, I saw things online?
Kind of changing up. But yeah, I kind of saw on social media, you know, people constantly changing their identities. And I thought, you know, why not? Let me try it. Let me see if it's for me. But even as a trans woman, I was very respectful for women. I would never use women's restrooms or changing rooms. I never wanted women to feel threatened by me.
No! No one is going to feel threatened by you, Ollie. Let's be honest. It's spewing out, though, that turfy nonsense arguments of men are just going to go to women's restrooms and attack them. Men are just going to go into women's changing rooms and attack them. If a man is going to want to attack you, they're not going to go through the whole effort of changing their gender to do it. Like, it's just going to happen. Like, it's totally, like, just nonsense. I don't understand why you're still talking about online pressure and online woke people making you transition. And I saw the stuff on the internet and I thought I'd do it too. Exactly. So you saw the stuff on the internet, but I'm gonna do it, lol, because you thought it would get your attention.
And, you know, unfortunately, when women try to speak out and say, you know, this is not good for our kids, they get cancelled, they get silenced, just like J.K. Rowling. And, you know,
there we go. There we go.
So many people out there trying to push these ideas on young people. And I think I was one of those people influenced by that. You know, I was just chasing perfection.
You were not someone who was, again, I don't understand why it's like he still wants to push it. Like, it was pushed on me. No one pushed it on you.
But I thought, you know, maybe I'm trapped because everybody else is saying, oh, you can change this.
No one was telling you that it was okay to change to be a different race. Like, literally no one's. There's a few insane people like what she called Martina Big and Rachel Dolezal. Literally no one was saying, no one was just changing their race. Like, it's just not, it's not.
You can change that. I understand biology, and I also agree with Helen, you know, you can't change biology.
But you just thought you could change race.
With me, it was more trying to change my looks.
It's just total buffoonery. Like, it's actually, I feel sorry for him. Like, pathetic sorry. Like, I feel sorry for you. Like, not in an endearing way, but in a, you're pathetic. You go from saying you're part of the trans community, we all rejected you because what you're doing was ridiculous and offensive, and now you've just gone full on TERF. Like, the people that he's talking to, especially in Tucker Carlson's circle and the people who watch that, they don't want people just like to save the children. They want trans people and LGBT people eradicated from existence. Like, they're the people that you were talking to. That's what they want. Like, that is the kind of people that watch that and integrate themselves into that community. Like, that they're not people who are looking out for children. They're hateful bigots who believe conspiracy theories, nonsense, and just want LGBT people eradicated from the existence. And that's who you're associating with. You can't make this shit up. Like, it's just total buffoonery. Instead of admitting that you did something wrong, or admitting that maybe you made a mistake, or you've just gone, no, they pushed it all on me. I never wanted to be this. It was all the woke culture. All the kids taught in school. No wonder I fell victim. It's all just absolute nonsense and lacks any kind of remorse, or lacking any kind of accountability to what you did as an adult. No one pushed this onto you. No one told you to transition into a Korean person. Like, that literally never happened. The entire community was telling you that you were insane and that you should stop doing it. This is, or you are basically a fame-hungry, clout-chasing individual who will do anything you can to be in the limelight, to get money, to get fame. Even if it's like bad fame, you still just want it. And it's just happened as a cycle over and over again, and now you've gone full circle, and instead of being part of the community, you're now against the community. Like, it's just nonsense. Go rot in a cave. Like, literally, go rot in it. Well, I mean, half of you is plastic, so it won't rot, but, you know, go melt in a cave. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that stuff. A massive shout out to my lovely patrons whose names are on the side here. Thank you for being a patron. You guys are delicious. And an extra special shout out to my top tier Patreons: Benjamin Baker, Bethard, Kaz.Thom, Shell Herman, Christina Carl, Con Pemberton, Erin Grace, Heather McFarland, Jenna Beth Herman, Joanna Krause, Caitlin Wright, Kelly Bowser, Caitlin Ritter, Chloe Louise, Lisa Pennington, Luke Peterson, Rachel the Seabiscuit, Robin Scott, Steffi Tech, and Zoe Sevier. I'm not sure how you say your last name, my love. Thank you so much for being a top tier patron. You guys are wonderful. Yes, I'll see you soon, I guess. Oh my god.